If you asked me my favorite TV shows, it would be in this order. The Great Food Truck Race, Gilmore Girls, The Bear, Joey and the Phantoms, and Abbott Elementary. I did a video a couple years ago where I read books based on my favorite movies. That was one of my favorite videos to film. In that video, I promised you a video where I read books based on my favorite TV shows, and that's what we're doing today. In this video, I'll be reading books based on Gilmore Girls, The Bear, The Great Food Truck Race, and Joey and the Phantoms. As much as I love Abbott Elementary, I've already found a book that is similar to the show, therefore I didn't need to include it in this video. The book was It's Elementary by Elise Bryant. It is a cozy mystery. It is so good, and if you like Abbott Elementary, I highly recommend it. Here's my TBR. For The Great Food Truck Race, I'll be reading With or Without You by Eric Smith. This is a YA contemporary romance between rival cheesesteak food trucks. I'm from Philadelphia and this book speaks to me. I cannot wait to read it. The author did send me a copy when it came out, so thanks to him for sending it over. For The Bear, I will be reading Notes from a Young Chef. I'm so excited to read this. And for my patrons, this will be an extended version. I'll be finally reading Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. My top patrons will be receiving a spoiler reading vlog of this. A while back, I found the novelization of Joey and the Phantoms. It is called The Edge of Great. I actually found this in a little free library a couple years ago. And last, for Gilmore Girls, I could have read Kelly's memoir, The Third Gilmore, and I should have done that, but instead I picked up this book. It's called Welcome to the Neighborhood, and it looks like Lorelai Gilmore is on the cover, so I thought this would be a perfect pick. That's my TBR. I cannot wait to get reading and show you what's in store.
Season premiere, The Great Food Truck Race, Sunday on Food Network.
I figured we'd start with my favorite Food Network show, The Great Food Truck Race, hosted by Tyler Florence. This is one of my all-time favorite shows. I get so excited every year. Today is August 3rd, and it is the premiere of season 18 of the show, so I figured I would kick off the video here. The book I'll be reading is With or Without You by Eric Smith. This is a YA contemporary romance between two teenagers and their family's rival cheesesteak food trucks. I do remember one of the seasons of The Great Food Truck Race featured a Philly cheesesteak truck, and this season is also hosting a cheesesteak truck. However, they are from Staten Island. As a proud Philadelphian, I do have trouble with people who are not from Philadelphia making cheesesteaks because the best cheesesteak is in Philly. It was so long ago that the Philly food truck was on. I believe it was around 2015, but I did get a chance to try that food truck. Living in PA, I don't know a lot of cheesesteak food trucks, but I love to go to a food truck. I would prefer to go to a food truck over a restaurant. I like to support them, and I feel like the food is better usually. My favorite food trucks are Mexican or burgers. When I lived in the city for college, I would go to food trucks all the time because they were more accessible to me, and there were so many food trucks. So I believe if I were to find a cheesesteak food truck, it would be in the city. I thought it just made sense to go to a food truck for this segment of the video. So today I'm actually going over to a local brewery who has an on-site food truck. They have smash burgers and other things, and I'm really excited. If you've never heard of this show, it is a food truck competition show. There are 9 trucks, and they are competing every week for 6 weeks to try and win $50,000 and a food truck. But there are eliminations, so you have to make it to the end to be the winner. Most of the contestants have run restaurants and not food trucks, so there is a ton of drama, and it shows how stressful running a food truck can be. But it is a reality show, so I'm sure that the dramatics are pumped up a little bit for TV. Overall, I really love this show, and if you want to watch it, it is on Hulu. Let's eat. I I just finished up With or Without You. I really enjoyed it. It has everything that I love. Cheesesteaks, food trucks, pop punk music, and it's set in the city I was born, Philadelphia. As someone born and raised in Philly, I love books that are set here. Eric did a great job setting the scene. I liked a lot of the description that he used, from the townhouses and row homes to the intricate things that make Philly Philly. I'm not going to go into too much because this is an arc and I don't want to spoil the book, but I'll do my best to tell you how much I loved it. I really liked getting to see the food truck aspects. That's my favorite thing about the Great Food Truck Race, is seeing how people work under pressure in a food truck. Plus, I like to see what they sell and how they adapt their menu to the challenges that they're given. As I'm filming this, the season has ended. I really enjoyed this season. I did think it was a little bit too short, but I was happy with the winner and I really enjoyed the cast this year, and I hope that this show keeps going. I have a feeling that it's probably going to end in the next couple years. Just from how this season went, it felt very rushed, as if they're kind of done with this show. I really hope that's not the case because I love this show so much, but I understand if they need to stop the show because this is the 19th season. It has been going on for way too long. I will totally understand if they need to end it, but I'll be very sad if they do. Back to the book. This is a fake rivalry between two cheesesteak trucks. We have Cindy and Jordan, who are the two teenagers fresh out of high school who run their family's food trucks. Due to things that happened in the past, these kids feel in debt to their parents and want to make these trucks successful so that their parents can have a nice life and they don't have to deal with the things that happened. I really liked that element because I feel it shows the reality of how hard the food industry is. Jordan's parents ran a diner. Cindy's family is from Boston and they had a farm, but things happened and they ended up in Philadelphia. And for Jordan, his parents, the diner closed and they started a food truck. So both kids feel in debt to their parents. They feel that they have to do a good job so that their parents can afford things and the income will be stable. However, the parents keep telling them, this is not your responsibility. This is not your responsibility. But I loved seeing the kids so passionate about food and passionate about trying to help their parents in any way. For Cindy, she isn't really into the food truck. She's fine to have it as a job, but her main passion is podcasting with her friends, talking about a reality TV show. She loves reality TV and hopes to work in the industry someday. So she has the mindset that she is going to move back to Boston, go to college there, and pursue some type of production degree. So the rivalry is really popular in Philadelphia. They mention how Philly is a small town, but it's not because it's a big city, but it has that small town energy where it's very community oriented. So we have people in the city showing up for these food trucks because they just love the drama, they love the rivalry, and they like the food. Cindy's family is not a cheesesteak truck. Like, I would just say that right off the bat, it's not. They do not sell traditional cheesesteaks, whereas Jordan, he does. They have original cheesesteaks with salt, pepper, steak, and cheese, and if you order it with mushrooms, you do have to ring the shame bell. I loved that. That is so Philly. If you know Philly, we're just very petty, and I can so see that being a reality of some truck making you do that. It also talks about how tourists are really nervous when they order, and I just thought that Eric encompassed Philly so well. And I think anybody that's not from Philadelphia will have a picture and an idea of what Philly is actually like. From the streets to the exterior and interior of the houses. I just loved all of the imagery that he provided in this book. But as we have the rivalry here, there's so much going on. They're pretending to fight and it's going viral, which is contributing to their sales. One day while Cindy is working on the truck, she's approached by a woman named Bethany, who asks her if she would be interested in a reality TV show featuring the rivalry, and they would call it Cheesesteak Wars. There is some fictional lore in here that there are reality shows in Philly. I can't remember what they're called at the top of my head, but it was really funny and just made me think of the reality of that happening. I don't believe there's any reality TV shows in Philly. I only know like the Real Housewives of is there one in New Jersey? I don't know. I'm the last person to be asking about those kind of shows. There's one called Rittenhouse. It was like Rittenhouse something. I'm reading from the ARC, so these might not be full quotes that are in the final copy, so just letting you know that. But it says these are some of the examples of fictional reality TV shows that are in the book's universe. Rittenhouse Rehab, Manayunk Makeover, Curating Queen Village. These are some towns in Philly, or like pockets and neighborhoods. I find that so funny. I'm like, dude, a Rittenhouse reality TV show I actually might watch. When it comes to reality TV, the only thing I've really watched is Catfish. That is my only reality TV that I ever watch. Besides that, I like to watch competition shows, and that's pretty much it. So Cindy's family says yes because they need the money. They are going to enter into this local competition called Truck Off, which reminded me a little bit of the Great Food Truck Race. Jordan's already been entered in it, so Cindy is also going to enter, and they are going to battle each other to get the prize money to help their families in their financial struggles. But I really like the way that the ending taught them a lesson. I am glad that this wasn't a cookie cutter book where there's a happy ending and everything happens that works in the kids' favor. I feel that both characters really had to learn from their mistakes, especially Cindy, because she is messy. She does a lot of things that bite her in the ass later, but I like that she learned from them. I do wish it would have been a little bit in depth, because I did feel it was resolved a little bit too quick. But besides that, I really enjoyed this. It was so dramatic and messy. Lots of reality TV incorporations. I actually didn't know going into this book that it would even have a TV element, so that's really nice, especially the truck off part. Like I said, reminded me of the Great Food Truck Race, so I feel like this was a perfect pick for this show. That's pretty much all I have to say about this. I thought it was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I will be reading more of Eric's books because he just captures Philly so well. I would have loved to have this book as a teenager, especially because it talks so much about the pop punk bands that I enjoy, especially the Wonder Years, who are a local Philly band. They are my all-time favorite band. I love them so much, but I really loved the pop punk element. Just because when I read YA when I was a teenager and like the start of my channel in the 2014, 2015 era, they didn't talk about pop punk at all. And I just did not feel seen, and I was like, okay, but I don't really relate to this in any way. So if I would have had this when I was a young adult, I really would have appreciated it. I'm so glad that this book exists. If you want to read about Philly or you like to read about food trucks, I think that this is a really great book. And thanks again to Eric for sending me an ARC. I really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad that this book exists. I do think it's important that I mention that both characters are Latine and they are brown kids. I'm so happy about this. When I read With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo, I was so happy because most of the time when I read books set in Philly, it's usually white people. It's a very diverse city, and black and brown people make up the city. I like seeing them represented because they deserve it. That's everything for the Great Food Truck Race. On to the next. Did I do a good job trying to cosplay as Luke Danes. Hi, it's time to read for Gilmore Girls. This is one of my favorite shows, but I didn't start watching it until it came out on Netflix. I do remember watching it on ABC Family when it was still called that, but I never had watched the full show until a couple years ago. It's probably no surprise to you if you've been a longtime viewer of my channel. I was the creator of the Gilmore Girls book tag when we were still doing book tags, and I have just talked about my love for Gilmore Girls on this channel anytime I got. But I feel like I haven't talked about it in a while, so for this portion of the vlog, I have two books. I know at the beginning I said I wasn't going to start the third Gilmore Girl, but I kept thinking about it and the audiobook is only 6 hours, so today that is what I've been doing. I started the audiobook last night and I probably could finish it today. I'm currently 30% in. This is Kelly Bishop's memoir, Who Plays Emily, on the show. It is her just chronicling her whole life, talking about how she was a dancer in show choir, she was in ballet, and now I'm to the point where she's talking about how her acting career started. But she is just telling it all. She's talking about the people that have wronged her, the relationship she was in, she talks about her family, and I think it's really interesting because we do really hear more about Lauren and Alexis versus the other cast members. So I'm interested to see how the rest of this goes. The foreword was by Amy Sherman Palladino, which was really fun. I would love a full book from her because I'm sure she has a lot to say, because if you know Gilmore Girls, I believe it was the last season that she was not able to write on. They took her off, which still annoys me to this day, but I'm excited to continue reading. And once I'm finished with that, I will start my physical book that I got for this video. The physical book I'll be reading is Welcome to the Neighborhood by Lisa Rowe. Is this not Lorelai Gilmore on the cover? I picked this up because I was looking at some recommendations of books to read if you like Gilmore Girls, and I saw this and picked it up. I'm not totally confident that I'm going to enjoy it, but I hope that it gives me enough small town Gilmore Girls vibes that I'm okay with it. It says, be careful what you wish for. How did Ginny and her 11-year-old daughter Harry end up in a town full of gossipy trophy wives and their mean girl daughters? The short answer, Ginny Miller fell in love. Her new husband Jeff's lavish house in the suburbs had everything her little walk-up in Queens didn't. A huge backyard, lots of neighbor kids, and a great school system. It looked like the perfect place to build a new life. Then she met the neighbors. Almost immediately, Ginny finds herself tangled up in the complicated realities of Elderberry Lane, a street defined by the ever-shifting alliances of PTA moms, real housewife contenders, and preteen cliques. But before she can get her bearings, Jeff unexpectedly accepts a job assignment overseas, leaving Ginny alone to fend for herself. When the neighbors' secrets, backstabbing, and bad behavior take a devastating toll on her daughter and new marriage, Ginny must decide what really matters and protect it at all costs. Wow, that sounds intense. It sounds more like a cozy mystery than, what, like a women's fiction? We'll see how it goes. I'm fine if I DNF it because I am reading the third Gilmore Girl, but we'll see how it goes. I'm so happy I decided to read this. Hi, last night I finished the third Gilmore Girl and I loved it. I had such a good time reading this. I can't believe I wasn't going to read it initially, but I would recommend it to any Gilmore Girls fans. I didn't know a lot about Kelly before going into this book. I knew that she played Emily on Gilmore Girls and that was pretty much it. I read her memoir on audiobook, which she narrates. Amy Sherman Palladino does the foreword and we get to hear Amy's narration, which was cool. I don't read celebrity memoirs very often. The most recent celebrity memoir I can think of reading was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, but besides that, I don't pick them up very often. We're not here to talk about celebrity memoirs that I've read. We're here to talk about Kelly Bishop. I thought that this was really well done. The writing was good. I do think audiobook is the best way to consume a celebrity memoir if it's accessible to you. I thought Kelly did a phenomenal job with this. I had so much fun just reading about her story, since I don't really know anything about her aside from her playing Emily in Gilmore Girls. The book starts us off in the 1970s when she is in New York working in show choir. We learn about her marriage and her gambling husband, but through everything that Kelly goes through, she perseveres and she does not let anybody get in her way. Before we even get to Gilmore Girls, Kelly follows us through all of her careers and how she got into acting. She starts off in show choir, she is a dancer, she does stuff with the ballet, and then she pivots to acting. I thought that was so interesting because most stories are people just becoming actors and then they get into things. She mentions a lot of shows she was on as minor characters. I didn't know that she was on Hawaii 5-0. She says that she has a minor role in that, but she is so humble and mentions that she isn't the reason the show was popular, but she mentions she was so grateful to be a part of these big productions. She mentions being in Dirty Dancing, and she doesn't stray away from how people treated her at all. She talks about how Patrick Swayze acted and how she got along with certain people on set versus others. Like I said, she does not hold back. I really admire that because I think sometimes in celebrity memoirs, it's not a tell-all, but you can tell that Kelly was just going to tell you all of the stories. I can't imagine what the editing process must have been like because she has so many stories to share. Many times she goes back to talking about her family and her mother, who was in an abusive relationship. She talks about the abuse that her brother endured when they were living with her father and how she felt when her dad died and she didn't feel any remorse at all. She was so happy that her family was free. So though this is about her time on Gilmore Girls, it's not a lighthearted book by any means. It does go into the gritty details of living with somebody who is a gambling addict and going into debt and having your penthouse foreclosed on. But like I said, she perseveres and she is like, I am not dealing with any of this. I'm getting out of here and I'm not making the same mistakes that my mother made. This is just a messy life story, and eventually when we get to the Gilmore Girls portion, it's towards the end, like the third act of the book. I really loved just learning how she got the role, and she mentions how she was able to channel Emily through her experiences of people she knew that was like her. I think that was really interesting. She mentions that she was so happy to be able to play Emily because all of her roles that she had been getting were the nice girl, and she was so happy to finally play somebody who was mean. She also talks about her relationship with Edward, who played Richard on the show, and how she was able to see him before he died. Though he was in a coma, she says she was glad that she was able to just have some closure with him and talk to him. She said they were best friends and they actually shared a trailer together. She was also very good friends with Lauren as well. She talks about being a widow during COVID and how a lot of her mental health was affected. She talks about going to therapy. I didn't realize how progressive she was. She talks about how she's always wanted to be child-free. When she was a kid, she realized she didn't want kids, and as she grew up, that stayed the same. So as she's talking about a lot of the relationships she was in, she mentions how she is not going to have a child, though there is a portion in the book where she mentions that she had an abortion, but she is pro-choice. She talks about going to a pro-choice rally with Amy and I believe Lauren. I thought that was so cool, and I was just really happy that they have the same values as the people in the show would. I don't know if Emily and Richard would particularly, because Richard was more conservative, but it was just nice to see that they are progressive, though I don't feel we need to like idolize celebrities or anything. I am not a big celebrity person. I still always say how it's so weird that we like put them on a pedestal and admire these people. When she's talking about Gilmore Girls, she does mention how Amy wasn't on season 7 because of some financial and contract things that happened, and she mentions that she believes if that had never happened and Amy stayed on for season 7, that the show would have continued. She doesn't mention much about the CW, but there are some things that you can infer, because when the boom of Gilmore Girls started with Netflix, she realized that if they had gotten proper marketing and promotion for the show when it was on the CW, that the show would have had a bigger audience. I feel like it did have an audience, but if you're a Gilmore Girls fan and you maybe watched it before it came on Netflix, you may agree with me here. The CW creates like niche audiences, and once it gets to a streaming service, it becomes popular. I'm thinking about Supernatural here. I feel like the Supernatural fans became bigger when it came on Netflix, but I don't really watch that show, so I could honestly be totally wrong. But you know what I mean. The boom of Netflix and Gilmore Girls being on there created a bigger audience. So Kelly mentions and acknowledges that she appreciates what Netflix did, though they don't talk about anything regarding residuals, so I don't even know if the Gilmore Girls cast is getting residuals from Netflix. I would be interested to know what's happening there. But she mentions that when the show became popular on Netflix, she would get recognized in public. She was grocery shopping and this kid came over to her and was like, "Hey, are you Emily?" And she was like, "Yeah, I am. I'm Emily Gilmore." I thought that was so funny. So again, I'm so glad I finally read this, and if you're a Gilmore Girls fan and haven't read it already, this is your sign. I'll drop a link down below if you want to pick it up. Now I'm going to start Welcome to the Neighborhood, and I have my Gilmore Girls bookmark. It says Stars Hollow Autumn Festival, established 1779 on the first week of November. Location, Town Square. Pumpkin Patch Hayrides Hot Cider, and it's a ticket, so it says admit one complimentary hayride included. I believe I got it on Etsy, so I'll link it down below. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I will be doing an activity for each TV show that I read for. I thought I would go to a diner, but I feel like I've just been doing that so much for videos that I'm gonna change it up, and this weekend I'm going to my local library's book sale, and every time I go, I always say that I feel like Rory in Gilmore Girls when she is at the book sale and Dean is being an asshole to her and she is just picking up so many books. So I am going to be going there this weekend. I'm making some snickerdoodles for it, so maybe I'll pop in a couple clips of that. But I thought that that would be a perfect activity for this TV show. I'm gonna get reading and I'll see you at the halfway point. I am officially 50% into Welcome to the Neighborhood, so I figured I would update you. Surprisingly, I'm really enjoying this. I didn't think I was going to love it that much because it's just a women's fiction about a woman who is in the suburbs. She originally lived in the city, and it's that transition into a new marriage, and I just don't really care about that. The biggest comparison to Gilmore Girls is the mother-daughter relationship. Ginny is our main character who has an 11-year-old daughter named Harry. They originally lived in Queens, and Ginny was a single mother. Then she met Jeff, and 5 months into meeting, they got married, and now she lives in a suburban town in New Jersey with Jeff as the primary breadwinner. Ginny is an artist. She paints portraits of pets, and that is how she makes a living. Also, being a city girl, Ginny does not feel that she fits in with this new group of women. They are the catty women of the neighborhood. It feels so much like the adult version of Mean Girls. We have the Regina George, the Queen Bee, and then her friends. There's this character named Amber who reminds me so much of Gretchen Wieners. There's so many things that she does, especially that she follows Margot's orders and then she kind of backtracks and backstabs her at the same time. If you like Mean Girls, I think you'll enjoy this, but it's very complicated and messy. PTA moms and that whole vibe can be really tough to navigate. Besides her story of being a single mother and having to make ends meet for both herself and her daughter and building her business from the ground up, also just having people in her corner to support her and her daughter, I find that Ginny also has similar characteristics to Lorelai. She is witty and also just doesn't put up with people's shit. In a way, this feels like an alternate universe to Gilmore Girls if Lorelai decided to stay with Christopher and stay in the luxurious life that her parents built for her, but still having your witty sense of humor and not buying into the wealthy people. If you're a Gilmore Girls fan, you might know what I mean here, but Ginny doesn't play into the wealthy people's language, if you know what I mean. She is still really reserved and confused by a lot of the things that are happening, but I like that Ginny is still reserved. She's her creative self. At the end of the day, this is really Mean Girls if it were adults. It's very high school. This also feels similar to the book It's Elementary by Elise Bryant, which I've already mentioned in this video. This doesn't have a mystery, and I wish it did. So, as I'm at the 50% mark, it's very dramatic. I'm liking the drama. It's a page turner. Ginny's put into a position where she is basically roped into being a PTA mom. Ginny is in a position right now where her husband Jeff has gone off on a work trip, and it seems like he's not going to be back anytime soon, and there's some weird things going on, especially regarding Margot's husband, who is a creeper. He's so weird. There's just so much mess here. We have the drama of the PTA moms, of Margot and her weird husband. Then she's also navigating her daughter who's in middle school, and she is being influenced by the children of the PTA moms, especially Margot, who is the queen bee, her daughter Matheson. We have a lot of talk about weight and some fatphobic language. It's really messy, but I'm interested to see how Ginny can navigate this all because it's stressful to me as a reader. So I wonder what's going to happen at the end. I honestly think I'm going to be disappointed just because it's not a mystery. I just don't really understand the point of the book. Maybe it's just me as a reader that I'm like, why do I really care about this white woman in the suburbs who came from nothing and is now just painting portraits of pets and navigating life as a mother? I just don't really know what the purpose of this book is. But obviously I am not the target audience for this book. So I'm actually going to wrap it up and I will come back once I have some final thoughts to share with you. Of course, my Gilmore Girls segment wouldn't be complete without some coffee. Yesterday, I finished up Welcome to the Neighborhood. This is a pretty fast-paced book. It's very drama-filled, but the ending felt so rushed to me. There was way too much conflict at the end that I wish that the author would have just picked one or two things. Instead, we just got bombarded with a lot of new information and a lot of conflict. Now, I am not the target audience for this, so I can't personally recommend it because I didn't think it was great. It also has two instances where Harry Potter is mentioned, so given that alone, I can't recommend this to you. I liked it, but it's not a new favorite, and it's not something that I would recommend. However, if you like to read about stories of having a fresh start, resilience, and a mother-daughter relationship plus some small town suburban drama, this might be up your alley. Especially if you like Gilmore Girls and you liked that dynamic of Lorelai and Rory, the wittiness, and just Lorelai's character in general. I find that Ginny and Lorelai have some similarities. For my core audience, I wouldn't recommend this. I don't think it's something that is amazing. Truly, I still wish there would have been some kind of mystery. At the end of the book, I was just like, okay, why do I really care about this? That's going to wrap up my Gilmore Girls section of this video. I would say the third Gilmore Girl was my favorite book that I read. I'm so glad that I decided to read it. This, like I said, was fine, but not something that I absolutely loved. However, it was fast-paced and I liked the drama, but besides that, I was just like, why did I read this? I don't really care about this at all. On to the next. It's no secret that I'm a big fan of Kenny Ortega. Therefore, I couldn't do this video without mentioning Joy in the Phantoms. If you haven't heard of this show, it's on Netflix. They did cancel it after season 1, and I am still upset about it. It is such a great show. Great soundtrack. So if you haven't heard about it, this is what it's about. We have a young girl named Julie. Her mother passed away, and ever since she's been grieving that and has not touched her piano or has performed music in any way. Her father is trying to get her back to that, but Julie refuses. One day she's in her garage, she finds this CD from a band called Sunset Curve, and she puts it in a CD player and the band comes to life. It is a ghost band, ghost boy band, and Julie is like, what are you even doing here?
What are you doing in my mom's studio?
So basically she ends up having a ghost band, and every time she performs with them. I haven't watched it in quite some time, but I will be watching some of it today. I just love this show so much. It's so good, and I'm still so pissed off at Netflix for canceling it because it's so good. I'm very used to shows that I like getting canceled. It sucks. It's actually one reason why I hold out on watching shows a lot, because I feel like I'll get so committed to a show and then it gets canceled and I'm like, why did I do this to myself? Why did I get attached to a show that I really like only for it to get canceled? But if you haven't watched Joy in the Phantoms, I highly recommend it. It's so good. If you love Kenny Ortega like me, I think you'll love this. Oh, I've missed this show so much. For the book, I'll be reading the novelization. It's called The Edge of Great. I haven't heard the best things about it, but it is a novelization, so I don't think it can be too bad. I actually read the novelization of High School Musical in my movies video. I hope that this is a good refresher of the show because it's been a long time since I've watched it. I'm excited to be back with the characters in the world. I'll be watching some episodes and I'm just gonna have a chill time reminiscing on one of my favorite shows. I don't have an activity for this portion of the video. I do have this shirt and I'll be watching some episodes, but it's gonna be fun to just be back in the world with the characters. So I'm gonna get reading and I'll see you in a bit. Last night I finished the Joy in the Phantoms novelization. It did take me 2 days to read, but that was based on my own schedule, not because of the book. I did enjoy this. I watched the show as I read, and I would say it synced up pretty well. It is a novelization, so you don't expect too much out of it. I believe these are more for kids who like these shows to help them have better reading comprehension. I had a really good time just being back in the world, listening to the music, and it did make me really sad because as I finished the show and the book, I am so distraught that this will never see the light of day ever again. It does leave off on a cliffhanger and I'm like, what happens next? So it was fun to be back in the world with the characters, but I am still upset. It just made me think about how good of a show this is. The music is great and I just wish I knew what happens next. I wouldn't say this is a great comparison to the show. It reads more as a script with some inner monologues. I enjoyed having an inner monologue because in this show specifically, we don't get any inner monologues. We get to see each character, but besides that, there's no more depth. But I do appreciate having it in this book because I like to know what the characters are thinking in that moment. I didn't want to spoil you, but I don't feel I explained this show very well. Now, having rewatched the show and read the book, I remember more. This did come out in like 2020 or 2021, I believe. So it's been a while. So we follow Julie Molina. She and her mom bonded over music. They wrote songs together. They sung together. It's been a year since her mom has passed away, and Julie has not touched music in any way. But she goes to a music school and they're giving her a second chance. She has to perform something to stay in the school. She gets stage fright and just cannot do it. So they revoke her place at the school. There's a lot going on surrounding that. She now has a single father, her brother, and her dad has made the decision to sell the house. So he asks her to go into the studio and clean things up, see what they can sell, and take some pictures. While she's there, she's looking through things and she finds a CD for a band called Sunset Curve. She's like, I have no idea what this is. She puts it in a CD player, plays it, and all of a sudden, these boys appear, but they're ghosts. You have Alex, Luke, and Reggie. They have been dead for 25 years. They died in 1995 from salmonella when they ate a bad hot dog at the Orpheum where they were supposed to perform. So here they are. They have been dead for 25 years and are trying to figure out what is happening. How are they connected to Julie? And how is Julie connected to them? She thinks it's through her mom, but they have to find out why. So they connect over music and it helps Julie be able to heal and play music again. So she plays a song at her piano and she realizes that the band is connected to her. So whenever she performs, the band is behind her and they perform together. So Luke tells her, okay, go to your school, we'll be there and we can perform to get you back into the program. She does, all is well, she's back in. But they think it's so weird that people can see them when they perform, but no other time. That's why this show is so cool. I love the concept so much and I cannot believe that they canceled it. I'm so sad. I loved getting back into the world and reading this book and watching this show again, but it just made me more distraught and upset again that I'll never get to see how the show ends because they cut it on a cliffhanger and we have no idea what happens next. And I don't believe that this show is going to be picked up again. It feels like a lost cause. It's really upsetting. So I'm sorry that I even had to bring it up in this video. If you seek out the show, I'm sorry, but it's such a good show, and if you do watch it, let me know. Those are all my thoughts on the book. There's nothing more I can really say. I thought it was fine. I liked being back in the world. It did read more as a script. We didn't get a lot of the chemistry and personality, but I did like the inner monologue scenes. And with that, it's time for the final show. Before I continue this video, I have to shout out my patrons. Without my patrons, this video would not be possible. They were able to fund my whole video, and I am eternally grateful. With their support, I was able to buy the physical books, the audiobooks, the ingredients, and some of the fun things like the shirt that I wore and some other things. I appreciate them so much. If you want to support my channel, Patreon is the best way to do so. But if you can't, I totally understand. Just watching these videos, giving them a like and leaving a comment helps so much. If you want to join our Bookish community, it's free. If you go over to my Patreon and become a free member, you'll get access to our Discord where I've been sharing updates about this vlog. We talk hockey, books, I talk everything over there. It is such a fun community and I would love to have you a part. Thank you again to my patrons for supporting me every month. It does not go unnoticed. I appreciate the support so much. Now back to the video. The last show for this video is The Bear. I'm actually going to be reading 2 books for this. You will get my full thoughts on Notes from a Young Black Chef by Kwame Onwuachi. This is a very diverse show. There's a lot of black and brown folks in the kitchen. One of my favorite characters is Marcus. He is a black man who works on the pastries. He makes cakes and donuts and things like that. He has his own culinary journey he's going on and a lot of personal issues dealing with family. I connect to his character a lot. I really love him. He's definitely one of my favorite characters. We also have Ayo Adibri's character, Sydney. I love her character as well. This is just such a well-rounded show. I have not watched the rest of this show yet. I could not get through season 3. It was so boring to me. I think I only got like 2 episodes in. I need to watch season 3 and 4. I don't know if I'll get around to it in this video because I'm really focused on cooking and reading, but we'll see what happens. This morning I started Notes from a Young Black Chef. I have the audiobook as well. Kwame was on Top Chef. This talks about his life as a Nigerian American, his life in restaurants, dealing with the culinary industry as a black man. And what I really love about this book is he talks about the origins of food and slavery. I think that's a very important and necessary element to add to this memoir, and it's laying the ground for the past and the present. How he started to love food but knew the origins. I think that's very important to include. I'll just read you the blurb really quick. By the time he was 26 years old, Kwame Onwuachi had opened and closed one of the most talked about restaurants in America. He had sold drugs in New York and been shipped off to rural Nigeria to learn respect. He had launched his own catering company with $20,000 made from selling candy on the subway and starred on Top Chef. That's actually a show I've never watched. Through it all, Onwuachi's love of food and cooking remained a constant, even when, as a young chef, he was forced to grapple with just how unwelcoming the food world can be for people of color. In this inspirational memoir about the intersection of race, fame, and food, he shares the remarkable story of his culinary coming of age, a powerful, heartfelt, and shockingly honest account of chasing your dreams, even when they don't turn out as expected. For the activity, of course, I'm going to cook something. From Matty Matheson's Cookbook. This is his most recent release. If you don't know the show, there's a character named Fack who is hilarious and played by Matty Matheson. I think it's so cool that he's actually a chef. I didn't know that until I started researching about the show and I found his cookbook. He has another cookbook as well, but I'm just gonna be working from this one. I will say it was difficult to find something from this. It is soup, salads, and sandwiches. It is a little chaotic. I have seen some negative reviews. I will say there's this really good TikTok review that I'll link down below. It is this channel who does cookbook reviews and they cook. So they tried this cookbook. They tried every single recipe and they just talked about how this is not a good cookbook for a home chef like myself, but I did find an uncomplicated recipe. I will say the recipe that I picked, I thought the recipe itself as it was written was very good. It is concise. Many cookbooks don't do that. So I appreciated that he tells me word for word because that is exactly what I need in a cookbook. I will be making the buffalo chicken finger sandwich. This is one of my favorite sandwiches. Actually, when I go to Wawa, which is a gas station convenience store deli combination thing in Pennsylvania, I always get this. This is my Wawa order. So it's gonna be really fun to make it myself. It has a blue cheese sauce, which I think is going to be really interesting. To me, this is a deconstructed buffalo wing, and I love that. So I'm actually going to make it tonight, and I will show you some B-roll clips as I do so, because I'm not going to be able to film and make this at the same time. It is just too much of a newer recipe for me to do that. But you will see the end result. Hi, I totally forgot to tell you what this show is even about, so let's do it really quick. So this follows Carmy, who went to culinary school. He worked in Michelin star restaurants to prove to his brother and his family that he can do it. Suddenly he gets a call that his brother Mikey passed away and he has to come to Chicago, and Mikey left his restaurant to him. This was called The Original Beef. It was run by his brother and his brother's friend Richie, and Carmy doesn't know what to do. He's filled with grief. He was not on good terms with his brother, and he just doesn't know what to do. So he gets into gear and he tries to figure out what he can. But it is so messy. One of my favorite things about this show, and what solidified it as one of my favorite shows, is the way it's filmed. I love the fast-paced nature of this. I find TV shows really hard to get into if they don't capture my attention very quickly, and this one did. I also am a fan of when TV shows do add different filming methods and editing. As somebody who has been making videos for a while, I like that type of thing. The story drew me in, but I would say the filming and the characters is what made this one of my favorite shows. I know I haven't finished the whole show, so I don't know if I can really say it was my favorite, but I will say season 1 was my favorite. And usually when you have a good season 1, that's good for me. Like, if I liked the show, I say it's my favorite. I don't have any specific rules to having a favorite show. If I watched it and I loved it, it'll be my favorite. I figured I would give you a brief rundown of the show because I didn't explain it at all. It's been a couple of days. I made the recipe out of Matty's cookbook, the buffalo chicken sandwich. I thought it was fantastic. Matty says this would be one of his last 3 remaining meals on Earth, and I agree. I love buffalo chicken sandwiches. I love wings and things like that. I don't mind anything spicy, so this was right up my alley. The sauce is what did it for me. It was a blue cheese sauce with crumbled blue cheese, sour cream, mayo, and lemon juice. I put it on the bread, and then once I've assembled the sandwich, I drizzled it on top. I have since had it twice. I was able to have this for 2 dinners, and I think it is a versatile sandwich, and I'll definitely be making it again. Plus, since I have the cookbook, I want to try and make more things out of it. I didn't think that this was complicated, but I definitely picked one of the easier recipes. There's more recipes that are inaccessible to people financially, and if you don't have a good grasp on cooking, it might not be for you. But I really enjoyed this sandwich, and I have some extra, and I can't wait to have it again. I have since finished Notes from a Young Black Chef. I really enjoyed this. However, there are Harry Potter mentions. I will list the page on the screen because I made sure that I reference that. This did come out in 2019, so I'm still okay recommending it, but honestly, if you just don't want any Harry Potter references in your books, I totally understand, because here was my reaction when I heard it for the first time listening to the audiobook. It's page 152, and I believe it goes on for at least 2 or 3 pages. I read you the synopsis earlier, and I think it does a good job of conveying what this book is about. We follow Kwame from childhood to being on Top Chef, and then we get to see a little bit of his journey afterward. I enjoyed learning about Top Chef and how it worked behind the scenes, because like I've said, I've never watched that show, so I have no idea what it really is. He does mention that he applied for Chopped and some other shows, but he really talks about how toxic the workplace can be when you're in the culinary industry, and that is something I admire about The Bear. It shows that. Our main character, Carmy, has a lot of trauma from when he worked in service and in a Michelin star restaurant, but his whole purpose is to create that with his brother's restaurant. So I did see some comparisons to The Bear. Honestly, I think if you like The Bear, you will like this. If Sydney is one of your favorite characters from The Bear, I think this is a good book to read. It reminded me a lot of her background and talking about working in the culinary industry. I saw a lot of qualities that Kwame exemplified, plus a lot of his story was reminiscent of Sydney and her background. I did enjoy this. I liked seeing the resilience of Kwame and how he really faked it till he made it. There were so many instances that he didn't know what he was doing, but he just told the people that he did and he figured it out. I loved seeing his journey to becoming a chef and working in his own restaurant, but he also talks about the racism that he endured while he worked in the industry. I think that this can be a hard read at times. I do recommend the audiobook. It is narrated by the author, but if you like food memoirs, I think that this is a good one. And last, I'll be reading a much anticipated read, Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. I will be giving you my review in this video, but I'm actually doing a spoiler reading vlog for my patrons. My top patrons get access to spoiler reading vlogs every month. I thought it would be fun to extend this vlog over on Patreon and do a spoiler reading vlog, so my top patrons will be getting that, but I will be sharing my spoiler-free review here. I've been wanting to read this book for years. I don't know anything about Anthony Bourdain, so it's going to be really interesting to read about his life. As we've been talking about the genocide in Gaza, I have seen Anthony Bourdain mentioned a lot regarding that topic, so I'm really fascinated to read this. I hope I enjoy it. I feel like I will. I just finished off my spoiler reading vlog, and that means I have finished Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. I was not a big fan of this. It's definitely not a good read for 2025. It's very vulgar. There is outdated language. It's very misogynistic, but it unfortunately is a realistic depiction of the food industry and men who work in that industry. It was a tough read. It was way too vulgar for my liking, but I think that this was still a good comp to The Bear, because what I love about The Bear is it shows a depiction of running a restaurant, and there are so many aspects that goes into it. There's always people fighting. There was a part in the book where he mentions what each thing means. It was a lot of profanities, but it was so funny because he says, oh, well, that means I love you, or no problem, or something like that. That was an interesting thing, and it reminded me a lot of The Bear. However, I'm so sad I was not a huge fan of this. Like, I liked it. I liked some parts. I find that I did learn things about the culinary industry, people who were important to him and taught him certain things that helped him along the way as he grew more successful in his career, but I still feel like I don't know much about him. I wish I would have had just a traditional memoir. I don't know if there's other books about him. If you know that, please let me know, but I'm sad that I wasn't a huge fan of this. If you want to hear all of my thoughts, that vlog is up on Patreon for my top members, and it is also going to be on sale for $10 if you want to just buy it and see what I thought. But yeah, I'm sad about this, but I don't think that I was the target audience for it. I don't want you to think I hated it, because I didn't, but it just was a very different book than I'm used to reading. The vulgarness is really what did it for me and took me out of the story. But I think if you work in the culinary industry or the food industry at all, and or you were a fan of him, you might appreciate it more. Now that I've finished all the books, let's do a little recap. I read 6 books in this vlog. This is one of my biggest reading projects aside from those Goodreads videos that I did. So please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Before I review the books that I read, if you're new here, I do not star rate books, so I'll just be giving a short review of them. Let's go. I read Notes from a Young Black Chef by Kwame Onwuachi. Really enjoyed this. Julie and the Phantoms, The Edge of Great was fine. With or Without You by Eric Smith. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Welcome to the Neighborhood by Lisa Rowe. I didn't care for this. Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain wasn't my favorite, but I appreciated what was in it and I understand why people enjoy it. It just wasn't for me. And I read The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop on audio. This is probably my favorite book of the video aside from this. And that concludes this reading vlog. Thank you so much for staying till the end. I know that this was a long one, but I had so much fun putting this together. A big shout out to my patrons. Without you, this video would not have happened. They were able to fund this whole entire video, the books, the ingredients, the audiobooks, and everything else that you've seen in this video. I appreciate them so much. If you want to become a patron, the link is down below. It is the best way to support my channel. And if you want to join my Bookish community, you can just become a free member and you'll have access to our Discord. I'm going to be rolling out some things soon, so stay tuned. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and leave a comment. It helps me out so much when you do so. It'll help more people know that this video is here. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Alex. I'm a trans man who loves to uplift queer and trans books on my corner of the internet. So if you're into that, feel free to hit subscribe. If you'd like to watch more, I will link my past video here and you can subscribe there. Bye.